What's up everybody, Rob here. So this is just a really brief video, something I was thinking about and just figured I'd share it with all of you. One of the first books that I read that really got me into the science fiction and fantasy genre was Frank Herbert's Dune. It's an absolute classic of the genre. It's pretty much to science fiction what fantasy, Lord of the Rings is to fantasy. Frank Herbert was a fantastic writer, at least for the first novel. The second and third, Dune Messiah and Children of Dune, they were good. I mean, I have no particular issues with them. They're not as good as the first one, but whatever. I haven't read the others, and as far as I can tell, I'm not missing much. We're not going to get into that right now. That's literary criticism, which I might do eventually, but yeah, not here, not today. Specifically, though, this is something that I've been thinking about since I read the series, the trilogy, and it's something that just never made sense to me. Now, again, it's a fantastic work, and if you haven't read it, I would highly recommend it. It's fantastic stuff. But this is just something that bothers me, or has been bothering me for a couple years now, and I just figured I'd explain it to all of you. So, some minor spoilers ahead, just so we're clear. Nothing major, no major. Well, yeah, actually, it is kind of a major plot point. But anyway, spoilers ahead. Deal with it. Okay, so now some backstory. Now, the series Dune takes place on, or at least starts out on the planet of Arrakis, the planet that's also nicknamed Dune. It's called that because it's a desert planet. There's basically, well, it's a desert. There's sand dunes, and that's pretty much it. I mean, there's a couple like rocks around, maybe some like scrub grass or something. I don't really remember. It's been like 10 plus years, so I might get some of the details wrong. Point is, it's a dry, barren wasteland with nothing but sand and dunes, hence the name. The natives of Arrakis are a group of people called the Fremen. The Fremen are hardcore, badass, tough as nails warriors. Some of like the best fighters in the galaxy. And this is actually the point that I'm trying to get at. Now, after the events of the first book, the Fremen were used as the core, the spear tip of Paul Atreides, the main character, Muad'Dib. I'm probably mispronouncing that, yeah, whatever. Look, I can't pronounce foreign words. I'm definitely not being able to pronounce fantasy words, okay? Anyway, so Paul Atreides, he uses the Fremen as his shock troops. He goes out, he conquers the galaxy, brings the galaxy under his heel, and he is now the Emperor. Actually, he was the prototype for the God Emperor of Man in Warhammer 40k, of which I'm a pretty big fan. Yeah, Paul Atreides, God Emperor of Man prototype. There you go. Emperor protects. So, between the first and second books, these Fremen were the baddest dudes in the galaxy. Now, in order to explain this a little bit further, what I have to do is explain how combat works in the Dune universe, and it involves knife fights. Basically, everybody in combat has personal shields, basically energy fields that completely surround them, and if anything is moving towards them too quickly, it'll just bounce off. So a bullet will just bounce off, really like a thrown object, a javelin, a spear, an arrow, whatever. It'll just bounce right off the person. The person is more or less completely invulnerable. In order to actually impact the person, to actually hurt the person, what you have to do is stab the person with a knife, and then fast as you can, get in there, and then right before impact, you have to slow down and glide it in. So it's, I think the phrase was slow on attack, fast on defense. I think when knife fighting was described. Point is, it's fast, and then right before impact, you slow it down and plunge the knife in. Pretty okay, fine. The reason for this is so that Frank Herbert could have knife fights in space. Fine, whatever. It's a gimmick. It works for me. Okay, now we're getting to the crux of the issue here. Now, on Arrakis, these shields are useless. I think, first off, because the sand gets into the delicate workings of it and it becomes useless. I don't know if I recall. For some reason, I recall that, but it's not a major plot point. The other reason is that the energy field summons up sandworms. Basically, these giant, they're giant worms that live in the sand. They're we're talking hundreds upon hundreds of feet long. They swallow entire vehicles whole. It's they're just massive worms, and you don't want to be having these things around you because they're giant worms that eat pretty much everything. So the point is, shields are useless. Okay, so anybody who comes to Arrakis, they cannot use their shields, and so they're naturally at the disadvantage. Now, this actually was a plot point in one particular incident, spoiler. When Paul Atreides was fighting a Fremen, he had this muscle memory. It's built into his muscle memory that right before he would dig the knife in, he would slow down. And then the Fremen would duck out of the way or dodge it or, parry it or whatever he did. And it's because the muscle memory of using a shield was so deeply ingrained into him that it prevented him from carrying, from winning. Muscle memory was so deeply ingrained into him, it prevented him from just jamming the knife in as quickly as possible. It was built into his mind, and he had to mentally overcome that while in a fight with this really hardcore, tribal war leader. So generally, anybody on Arrakis is at this natural disadvantage. Combine that with the fact that the Fremen are just naturally tough, very warlike, tribal type people. They're, they're badass warriors. Dune is pretty much untouchable. I mean, the Sardaukar, the elite shock troops of the galaxy, were completely trounced when they tried to, exert their control over the planet later on in the book, at least in the first book. Now, between the first book and the second book, the Fremen were used as Paul Atreides. He basically united all these disparate clans together and used them as shock troops to bring the galaxy together. Again, prototype for the Great Crusade. Okay, now this is the question I have. How could the Fremen possibly be of any use outside of Arrakis? Because their main advantage is that they don't use shields. They cannot use shields because they'll be eaten by a giant sandworm. Okay, now they leave Arrakis to, be the spearhead of Paul Atreides' army. Now they're on planets where shields are useful. They don't have the muscle memory built in that others have for shielded combat. They can learn, certainly they can learn, but they don't have that, years of training that other people have had. And, so that means they're either using shields, in which case they're at a huge disadvantage because they're up against people who have been using shield and they're used to that particular type of warfare, or they're not using shields, at which case they're at a complete and total disadvantage because they're up against people who are using shields. So they're not used to the whole, fast and then slow right before the point of impact. Like, they're not used to that. So their weapons are just going to be bouncing off these people's shields as their enemies are just going to be poking them, putting no real effort into it. It's going to be pretty, it's going to be a slaughter. And I honestly don't know how maybe I missed something here, but I don't recall Frank Herbert actually addressing this issue. It's just like, they conquered the galaxy, brought the galaxy under Paul Atreides, Muad'Dib's rule, and okay, done. Like, that's it. And I just want to know, how is that possible? And that brings up another issue, too. What about weather? Now, on Arrakis, like I said, it's dry. Okay, it does not rain there. Or at least it didn't. Throughout the course of the first book, it does not rain. It's just this barren, sand-covered dune wasteland. And that's it. Okay, I mean, I think one of the characters, I think Jessica, described a river to them or something like that, and they went to, they lost their minds of religious ecstasy, of possibly seeing that much water. Like, the idea of having that much water gave them a quasi-religious experience. I think one of the, in the second book, actually, a Fremen describes seeing an ocean, and everybody around him was just stunned, they lost their minds. Okay, how are they going to deal? Now, these people have no concept of things like, rivers and lakes. Okay, what about things like swampland and mud? That's, I mean, we just look at, the German army or, the French army, invading Russia. Bad idea. Mud season. Everyone talks about General Winter. Well, yeah, what about Colonel Mud? Wagons and, trucks and tanks and stuff, sunk up to their axles. You're spinning the wheels trying to get it. They can't handle it, with the modern technology. And they know exactly what mud is. How do you even begin to describe what that is to people who don't even understand, more than a glass of water is mind-blowing to them? How do you explain what mud is? And how are they going to handle it? Another issue, real quick, look at this right here. Gonna unload this, open up the shade here because the light might be a bit off. Yeah, see that there? Snow. It just snowed yesterday. Not too bad. Weird weather we're having. It's going to be 70 degrees tomorrow. I don't know. Global warming. I don't know. It snowed yesterday. It's going to be 70 tomorrow. I don't know what's going on here. Any case, now, I'm up here in, let me just adjust this for a second. Now, I'm in northern New Jersey, all right? I'm used to snow. It happens every year. Everybody around here knows how we know what snow is. We know how it works. We know how ice works. We know how freezing water works. We know how all this stuff works. Yet every year, I cannot count the number of car accidents, number of people slip and fall, just the general chaos. I mean, you know, if it snows more than like 6 to 8 inches, the world shuts down. I work at a grocery store, and just the mere thought of snow sends people into, you know, panic mode. What are the Fremen going to do? Like, can you imagine people who've never had any concept of snow at all through like a snowdrift a foot deep? I mean, can you imagine how easy that would be to pick apart? Now, again, if they're not using their shields, you put 2 snipers on the, you know, bring them to a frozen lake, lure them onto a frozen lake, and either sink it, which will, you know, like break the ice and watch them all drown because they have no idea how to swim. You have to learn how to swim. I know, mind blowing, but okay, you do that. Yeah, you just, you know, rig the thing up with demolition charges and you know, lure them onto the lake, demolition charges, boom, blow it up, problem solved. Or watch them slip and slide and fall over the ice, and then you just have like a couple snipers, maybe a machine gun nest on the far side, and you can just mow them all down. And so that's really what it bothered me. Maybe if you guys have read the series, and it's, like I say, it's been a long time since I've read this, but this is something that just always bothered me. Maybe I missed something, so please let me know in the comments. Maybe I did, maybe it was explained, maybe it was explained in a later book that I haven't read, or some supplemental material. Just something I'm throwing out there for, I don't know why, it popped in my mind. Yeah, that's it. No real discussion here, I'm not trying to inform anybody, it's just something that, this plot hole that's always been bothering me. Just figured I'd let you guys know about it, and, yeah, let me know what you think. So, hit the like and subscribe button, more videos will be coming out, you know, whenever I get around to it, and that's pretty much it. Alright. See you later. Have a good day. Or don't. You're adults. Have any kind of day you want. See ya. Oh, and one other thing. This is something that I was thinking about while I was doing this. Why does nobody wear body armor? I mean, if you have the personal shields, you know, these energy shields that prevent, you know, the knife from going in, okay, well, you have to slow down right before impact, right? So that means you're not really hitting with a tremendous amount of force. You just wear some chainmail. Or like, you know, just some plates, some brigandine, you know, something like that. You're invulnerable. You can, like, pretty much, short of like a nuclear explosion, you can just like, yeah, I'm good. You know, because you got to slow, you know, the guy's got to slow down. It's not hitting you with a tremendous amount of force. Yeah, some, you know, chainmail will do fine, you know, brigandine. It'll work. Yeah, why does nobody do that? Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Frank Herbert's Dune, fantastic novels. Check them out. Don't get your military strategy from it. All right. For real this time. See you later. Have a good day. Or don't. I don't care. See you later.